Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ketodontist podcast. This is your host, Dr. Matthew Standridge, and we have a kind of an interesting dynamic today because joined with me is my lovely wife, Sara Joy. Say hi, Sara Joy.
Hi.
And really, we're recording this on New Year's Day, 2021, and we wanted to take this time to really wish everybody a good New Year's and take some time to kind of reflect back on the previous year and all of its challenges, to say the least, and kind of give an update of where we're at and kind of where we're going from here. So, wifey, give us a little bit of a lowdown. How did 2020 wrap up there?
Well, wrapping up 2020's been great. Most of the year has been not as.
Yeah, but I think everybody can say that, and I don't know of anybody who absolutely loved the year, but at the same time, it can't all be bad. And the point of this show isn't to just have a pity party by any means, because there's always moving forward.
Yep.
And I wanted us to be a little bit forthcoming and transparent on what all occurred for us in 2020 and its kind of ramifications and how we're moving forward with that. So, before we get into that, listeners that are new to the show, I want to welcome you. This podcast is really about cutting through all of the BS in this health, wellness, fitness space. A little bit about me: I'm a practicing dentist. I've been on my own personal weight loss journey. By the time it's all said and done, when I hit my goal, I'll have had an experience losing almost 300 pounds throughout my life. But I'm also a certified primal health coach. Have a few different personal training certificates and a certified nutritionist and stuff like that. So not only am I on my own health journey, but I also really like to help other people as well. And I know what a paleo, ketogenic, basically a whole foods, low carb approach is basically the ideal kind of templates to work within in human nutrition. From a dental standpoint, it's the most optimum kind of dental way of eating and stuff, and I really see the mouth as kind of a gateway to the rest of the body. And so if something's causing dental disease, oral disease, that's going to have other ramifications throughout their whole body and systemic health. And so, but in this day and age of the Insta influencers and all of that stuff, there's just a lot of shysters and there's a lot of misinformation. And also there's this kind of warring camp of one side of it being, it's the CECO group, the calories in, calories out, if it fits your macros group. And then the other end of the spectrum is it's all about insulin, it's all about hormones. Everything that the evidence-based crowd said is bad, and we're going to be the contrarian view to that. And just like everything in life, everything in nature, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And so if I were to say that I have one single superpower, it's not that I've created any of this. It's just that I have a distinct ability to kind of find the nuggets of truth from different places and figure out how it all kind of clicks together.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm a pioneer, that I've done all this research or anything, because people who are touting that are full of shit. There's nothing new under the sun. All of your low-carb folks are just regurgitating what Atkins said back in the 70s, and even he wasn't the first one to say this stuff. And so it's just... the way that I look at things is I see what works, I see what doesn't, I read the science, and figuring out how that all plays together. So that's really what this show is about, as well as documenting my personal journey, because everybody wants to act like their life is perfect and that they don't struggle and all that stuff. And if you're struggling, something's wrong with you, and that's not the case. And we'll go through that more. And then for you regular listeners of the show, welcome back. This show moving forward is going to be a little bit different in the fact that I will have the shows marked explicitive because I've kind of filtered myself, and I'm kind of done doing that. If there's been one lesson that I've taken from the previous year is to show up brutally honest as myself. That's with my patients, that's with my audience, and it'll turn some people off. Sure, I respect that, but then others will appreciate the being genuine and the authenticity. So it'll be a trade-off, but that's kind of where we're going from there. And also some of the guests I'm getting lined up, they can use colorful language as well, and I'm not going to stifle their views. So just let you know, if you see the little E on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, you go Google Play, all that stuff, that's what's going on. So wife, how was the new year?
As I said, the new year was good. It's ending on a better note than where it started. So it's been quite a roller coaster of a year for us.
Yeah. So looking back, January and February weren't bad.
Oh.
I had I went to a dental conference at late January and got to meet a lot of online friends. I'm in a lot of these dental groups and stuff like that. So we had a conference down in Scottsdale, and so I went to that. So that was really cool. So that was a good jump start for the year.
Yeah.
And then my Kansas City Chiefs, they won the Super Bowl. So that was another highlight of the year. But then after that, just kind of started, kind of free falling.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, one of the cool things that happened was in February. For those of you guys new to our journey, we have one daughter, Hazel. She is 5 years old as of the recording of this episode.
5.5, Dad.
Yeah, 5.5, and when she was born, I was at the heaviest weight of my life. I was over 360 pounds. I was so unhealthy, and it was seeing some pictures of me at that time, holding her and all that stuff, and we were at my dad's 75th birthday party. And so they're taking pictures, all that stuff, and I started seeing these pictures come back, and I was at the heaviest weight of my life. I'm holding my newborn, and I'm just like, this isn't right. I've got to make a change. And so that was kind of my pit moment that started me on this path. And I've experienced weight loss before, and I knew what to do and everything, but that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Okay, it's time to really start getting serious about it again. And so fast forward a few years after Hazel's a couple years old, 2 to 3 years old, and we started wanting to try to have another child. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't happening. Now, I had already lost a significant amount of weight by that time. Sara Joy, you started eating better and all that stuff. You even started doing kind of keto, and you even went through a couple of Ketodontist boot camps.
Yeah.
And so tell a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I mean, I knew, you had already been losing weight and doing really well with that. I never really lost the baby weight after Hazel, and so I was kind of wondering if part of the reasons why we weren't being successful getting pregnant this next time around trying had to do with my health.
Right.
So eventually I got to a super low point and just made a decision I need to do something about this. And you had already been part of the Keto Gains universe and
Mm-hmm.
introduced me to it because it sounded exactly like what I needed. I
Mm-hmm.
needed that accountability outside of you.
Right.
I needed that plan. I needed the guidelines. And it worked really well. I lost 25 pounds that summer.
Mm-hmm.
But then after losing that weight and you had lost so much weight and we still weren't getting pregnant,
Right.
something was up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we actually had a hygienist at the time. She had been seeing a fertility specialist, and she recommended her specialist to us to see what was going on. I kind of had an idea it might be like scar tissue or something because I had a C-section with Hazel. She was breech. And so we went up there, we did all the blood tests, we did all the tests. Everything was fine. My thyroid was a little outside normal range, but not much.
Yeah.
Um, and then we finally did a ultrasound and we see this giant dark spot
Right.
on the inside of my uterus. And so it wasn't necessarily scar tissue if you kind of can imagine like a blood blister.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we weren't getting pregnant for so long.
Yeah, it basically created this fluid sac that, just held on to stuff, and it was inflammatory. And so it was a physical anomaly that was not letting implantation happen, but also just creating like an inflamed area. And so that just wasn't letting things happen. But like she said, she got tested. I got blood work and tested the swimmers and all that stuff, and nothing was wrong. And what's so funny is that we were both coming from a place of much improved health.
Yeah.
Like when we tried to have Hazel, it was just like boom, it happened, and neither of us were all that healthy.
We really weren't.
And so here we made great strides, and it only been a couple years, and yet nothing was happening. How long did we try? Like diligently try?
Technically about a year and a half of, trying, and every month nothing happening. And I could swear, like, there were times like I felt, hey, maybe it worked this time. And then every month, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that physical impediment that I ended up having is what was causing this to happen. So originally I thought, maybe it was caused by the C-section. We had my surgery in September of 2019.
Yeah, so that surgery was to remove that impediment, remove that sac that had formed on the uterine wall. And so that's what she was talking about there. So.
Yeah. So yeah, we got that removed. They, of course, told us to let healing time happen. And so come February of 2020, it was actually Valentine's Day weekend, we had a positive pregnancy test. And I was really freaking excited. We'd had kind of a crappy weekend because we had gone to a hotel in Wichita. We had brought Hazel with us because we wanted to give her like a Valentine's Day. We're going to a hotel, we're going to get to go swimming, then we're going to go to the trampoline park next door the next day. Well, Hazel got very sick on our way to Wichita.
Yeah.
Like she started complaining that her ears were hurting. And then overnight, we're trying to go to sleep. We didn't end up swimming. And she starts like shaking with fever. And so we ended up in the emergency room that night.
Yeah.
And we just went right home the next day. We didn't we
didn't obviously go swimming or go to a trampoline park or anything like that.
So yeah, it was kind of a scary pre-weekend doing that. But then the next day we get home and I realize, hey, something didn't start. So I took a test and lo and behold, we had that positive pregnancy test. So yeah, we were ecstatic that the surgery worked. We were very, very happy that after all this waiting and all this time that it finally had worked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool when that happened. And then, a couple weeks after that, that's when like the whole thing about coronavirus and all that stuff was really starting to take hold of the media here stateside and all of that. And so, and then that just snowballed to the point that when quarantine
Well, then
was
I
when
had
it
to go
started
back to
happening.
work
Hmm.
too during that time.
Yeah.
Our front desk person that we had hired to take my place back, when before school started in the fall,
Yeah.
she ended up moving on to another job. So I came back to work like right before we found out I was pregnant. I had
Right.
just started
That's
back at the
true.
office. Um, yeah, and so when I came back, I'm like, well, I'm here until I get pregnant, and then within the week, we found out I was, um, and then yeah, we move into March with talking about lockdowns and quarantines
Yeah.
and flatten the curve, and
Yeah. Yep. And so fast forward to March 16th, and that is when the ADA, the American Dental Association, kind of really came out with their recommendations of dental offices closing.
yeah,
And so, dentistry, it's a subspecialty of medicine. Dentistry was like the actual first specialist that branched off of medicine. And so the dentists are designed as basically surgical centers. That's what they are. And so we have a fairly high overhead because we have unique equipment and technologies and stuff like that come at a very high price. And so just one of my dental chairs costs more than the truck that I drive. And so with that comes an overhead, and here you have you're basically being told to shut your business down. Now we acknowledge that has happened in all sorts of industries. Um, so that's not to make light of any other industries that were affected, as far as restaurants, movie theaters, bars, other small businesses and stuff like that. It's just dentistry was unique because they were freaking out about aerosols, and so we were shut down. And yet and I don't know of any other branch of medicine that was impacted the way dentistry was. Obviously, all sorts of medical practices of all different types of specialties were affected in unique ways, but I don't know that any that just came to such a grinding standstill as dentistry was. And dentistry is also unique in the fact that a lot of us are private owners. Like these are our own businesses, and so we're not part of a hospital conglomerate and all that stuff. We eat because of the services that we provide. And so March 16th is when we got those words. So that is when I had to close the doors and furlough my team. And so it's weird to close, to basically let all of your team go and to close the doors on something that you worked years and years to create.
especially when you're just starting to feel comfortable with the team you have,
Right.
which we were.
Yeah. And so, and then, of course we find out, we're just a couple weeks along pregnancy wise and all that stuff. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. And then about 4 or 5 hours after we closed the doors, Sara Joy knew something wasn't right.
Well,
so
yeah, we had just been in Wichita the weekend before, and I had already started having some spotting that weekend. Kind of worried, kind of not, because I know sometimes spotting can be normal
Right.
in early pregnancy. So I was just trying to keep an eye on it, but it wasn't too worrying. Now, I hadn't had that kind of spotting when I was pregnant with Hazel, but as I said, it's still normal for pregnancy, early pregnancy. But yeah, I had actually stayed home that Monday, the 16th, because Hazel had a fever. And so I stayed home that Monday. I didn't go to work. And so Matt had to take care of the furloughing on his own, unfortunately. But yeah, by the time he got home, I was crying on the floor. I didn't realize what he was doing that day at the office, and he didn't know what he was coming home to. So yeah, that was. I'm not looking forward to the anniversary this year of that day. Yeah, we ended up in the ER that night. We were supposed to have our first prenatal appointment that coming Wednesday and
Right.
have a
Yeah.
sonogram and get to see our new little person, and that new little person was no longer with us.
Yeah. Yep. And so, March 16th will be forever kind of etched in my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but in a way, that was our first day of quarantine. Like the
Mhm.
next day was basically our first day of quarantine
Yeah.
of a 7-week stint. And so, in a way, that was kind of a blessing than the fact that it would have forced me to stay home
Mhm.
and deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, but as everybody knows who went through quarantine, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. It was a lot of depression, a lot of fear, and a lot of
Mhm.
anxiety for a lot of people. And honestly, and it was also about this time that I stepped away from coaching at Keto Games.
Mhm.
Um, they had changed their coaching structure in a way that it just didn't make sense for me. And also with now grieving the loss, it couldn't hold my priority anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't devote the time and attention that it would take.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things I don't want to do a half-ass job doing something like that. And
Mhm.
so I miss coaching and I miss the group. I
Yeah.
really do. Because I felt like I kind of lost a part of a family in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So I certainly do miss that, but it just wasn't, it couldn't, I just had too much other stuff going on that
Yeah.
I had to step away from it.
Yeah. We had a lot of priorities, and
Yeah.
something had to give.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I mean, with the quarantine happening, I mean, if this miscarriage had to happen, that was when it needed to happen.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because you already knew you were going to be canceling appointments at the office. You
Yeah.
already knew, that you no longer had that priority. And yeah, we were able to kind of
Mhm.
mourn and grieve together as a family. I mean, Hazel was home too,
Yeah.
and because they turned school off right about that time
Right.
too. So yeah, we were just home together and got to grieve together.
Yeah. So, quite honestly, for the rest of the year, I wasn't my head wasn't really in the game. It started getting in the game again back in August. With I had decided I had come across Andy Frisella's thing of the 75 hard challenge and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and I've known about Andy for a while, but I was just kind of in a funk, so I was like, you know what, screw it, let's give it a try. And I made it 28 days into the challenge, and it was doing really, really well. And it was about that time that I learned that both of my assistants, I had two clinical assistants. I learned that both of them were going to be moving on to other places. And so all of a sudden, I'm like, well, damn. Okay, so I had to shut my office down. I had to let some people go. I
Hmm.
wasn't able to bring some back. And now my two clinical assistants I've spent years training,
Hmm.
um, now all of a sudden I'm losing them. And so I was keeping good with 75 hard and made it 28 days in. And then I got sick. Got like a stomach bug
Yeah.
and I was down for a few days.
Hmm.
And so that broke the whole thing about the 75 hard challenge is you have to do it for 75 days
Right.
consecutively. You cannot make one little mistake or else it just starts over.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't do 2 workouts a day for a couple of days. And so then plus one of my assistants just straight up leaving, like
Yeah.
at basically just walked out at the end of a day. Again, my head wasn't in it after
No.
that. I had to focus on hiring a brand new clinical team, which luckily we have a great team.
Yes.
We have found some excellent people.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take a while for them to grow because we do so much advanced stuff. We do advanced orthodontics and implant dentistry and surgery and all the digital stuff, the rehabilitation stuff. We do so much more than like 98% of the other dental offices on the planet that and around here nobody does that, so it's not like I could find people with experience.
Right. The two that we hired that had been assistants before still are learning so much.
Yeah, because they came from more basic offices, and that's not to poo-poo other general practices. It's just we're so different that it's a lot to learn. Yeah. And it's a lot to take on. It's going to take them years. And it's going to take us years as a team to kind of get back to the point that I was at previously.
Right.
But we'll talk about the growth side of things here in a little bit. But one of the growth things for me is shedding expectations, after this year and all of that stuff. But again, my head just wasn't in the game because I can maintain fairly well, but for active losing, I've got to be at a significant deficit. My body's just so adaptive. I've got to be at a significant deficit for a long time. We're talking like 3 weeks of unimpeded deficit for things to really
start moving,
to really be moving. And it just, it is what it is. There are genetic components to it. Some people are going to be more inclined to pack on the pounds and to have that quote-unquote thrifty gene. But that doesn't... I don't want people to fall into a victim mindset about that. Yeah, it kind of sucks to... Like, I could look at a donut and gain 10 pounds, but, like, that doesn't absolve me from responsibility.
Right.
It's okay to say, yeah, this sucks. It's going to be more challenging for me than it might be for others, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It is. It's okay, and you just show up and you do your best. And so, my body can fluctuate so much. I started off the year at like 275, 278. By my lowest streak was right at that when I was doing that 75 hard, and the lowest I got was 255.
Yeah.
And then this next round of bullshit happens, and I let off the rails, and I didn't go off the rails completely, but I wasn't tracking. I wasn't as consistent. I would go to the Mexican restaurant with the team more and stuff like that, and I drink more on the weekends and stuff like that. And so, of course, I rebound. So, like in September, my lowest was 255. Here, I'm bringing in the new year at basically 290. So I went from like 270, 275, 278, 255, 290. And that's just how much I can fluctuate in just a couple months' time. And it's not like I'm hitting the Chinese buffet. They're still closed. I'm not gorging. Yeah. It's just, it is what it is. And I do think, even though it's not clear on the science, I do think carbohydrate tolerance is a thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's not found in science. Just like Lane Norton, he talks about reverse dieting, and he's a big believer in that, even though it's not shown in the science.
Right.
But he has enough data just by his coaching, handling people, and his own anecdotal experiences. And I'm kind of the same way. I just you look at my family.
Yeah.
They're all obese. They're all overweight. Except for one, and it's just like my family, whatever it is in our ancestry, I don't think we're carb tolerant people. I just don't. I think we're just going to do better on low carb. Some people can handle carbs. Some people, it might more lower fat or more zone macros of 40, 30, 30. that might be more.
Yeah.
But I just look at people, and if they're obese and diabetic and all that stuff, which is pretty much my family, um, sorry, but we just need to be low carb. Like
Yeah.
that's just the way that it kind of needs
And
to be.
you require the consistency.
Right.
Like you can't get off.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Everybody talks about moderation, but you look at any uh look at any people who abuse drugs or alcohol or whatever. Is moderation successful with that? No,
No.
it's not. Yeah, I mean, you have to come into a place of like this recovery
Hmm.
mindset and
Yeah.
this addictive mindset. And actually that's the best way that I've dealt with mine is when I take a hard stance and see it as more of an addiction.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Not everybody needs to go that hardcore. Some people, they can have their free meals, their
Hmm.
cheat days or
Hey, I
whatever,
can do that.
or they can do moderation
Yeah.
as long as they're counting the kind of if it fits your macros
Hmm.
type thing. There's no one clear, blanket solution for everybody, right?
Right.
But for a lot of people, they really need to look inward and do a deep dive on themselves and and come to terms,
Yeah.
with the reality of their situation.
Hmm.
And so, Sarah Joy, you talk a little bit about, since the miscarriage,
Hmm.
and we've had some great news since.
Yes.
But let's talk about that a little bit. Like, so we lost the baby. We went through grieving, and
Hmm.
it never goes away. We still,
Yeah, we'll always have that sadness
yeah.
there.
There's always going to
Absolutely.
be that, but like, moving forward, what new developments has been going on, since then?
Well, one thing I will tell you, after the miscarriage, Frozen 2 came out, what, November of last year, I think it was.
Right.
And, no, 2 years ago now.
Hey.
um, but even though it's a kid's movie, the song "The Next Right Thing," if you're
Mhm.
familiar with Frozen 2 and you're familiar with their songs at all, that song that Anna sings is actually kind of what helped me get through my grieving process,
Mhm.
um, and focus on the future. Um, yes, a miscarriage happened. I can't go back in time. I can't bring that pregnancy back.
Right.
And so the song talking about do the next right thing, Anna had just lost two people
Mhm.
very important in her life. And yet she says, I got to keep moving on. I got to keep moving forward to do the next thing.
Right.
So yeah, that really got me through. Um, so we have our quarantine. We're home for 7 weeks. All together. We never really get to see your parents for most of that time. It's the three of us at home.
Yeah.
You still went in for some emergencies,
Right.
and things during that time. Um, but so as my body was healing after the miscarriage, I started noticing that some of the symptoms that I saw pre-surgery, pre-figuring out what happened that time, were came back.
Mhm.
So what was happening was about a week before like my period would be starting, I was getting spotting. And that started happening again
Right.
after this miscarriage. And so I went back to my new OBGYN since this had been our first pregnancy since moving to Yates Center. So we had a new OB and we saw her after the miscarriage. So I went back to her. I said, these symptoms have come back. Can we do a sonogram? Can we see what's going on?
Mhm.
And so we did, and we found another fluid sac.
Mhm.
This time it was much smaller, but it
Right.
was still there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just said right there, I'm not doing surgery again.
Right.
I'm not doing it. And so we found that out in end of May, middle June.
Mhm.
We found that.
Right.
And so we just came to the decision, together. We talked about it, said, then we're done.
Yeah. Yep.
Hazel's it. Hazel's awesome. We can't really ask for a better kid.
Right.
And we both decided to move on. And we planned for Matt to go ahead and get snipped, have his procedure, because what was happening, before, as I said, when we were trying and before we found the first fluid sac, there were times I could have sworn I would get a positive pregnancy test. I
Right.
felt the symptoms of pregnancy.
Right.
And, so it was month after month of maybe, and then very, very low every time my period started. And I didn't want to do that again.
I mean, honestly, guys, it was like a cyclical depression, just like a monthly, like, kick in the nuts of, hey, it didn't happen. And so we just could not go through that anymore.
I didn't want to get back on a hormonal birth control pill. And you were more than willing to go ahead and take care of things on your side.
Right.
So that's what we plan to do. You had your consultation for that the first day of July. And first day of July was also when my period started. It was 4 days early, which was a little odd because generally my period doesn't go early or late.
Right.
So he had his consultation, then planned for your procedure on the 31st of July.
Right.
So we had 1 month of, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Hail Mary.
Yep. Yeah. Not thinking that it could.
Nope.
Knowing that it was possible-ish, but in no way.
Yeah. Because I'd still had that spotting.
Yeah.
Previous to July 1st.
Yeah. So it's still the same stuff that we had tried for 1.5 years, 2 years, and it didn't work then.
Yeah.
And here we're dealing with the same stuff again. So, we gave ourselves a month to try, and then about a week before my procedure.
Oh, no. 2 days.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. 2 days. 2 days before the procedure, we get a positive pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Now, honestly, though, obviously I was thrilled and everything. A lot of people have criticized me for going ahead and going through with the procedure. But I was done.
Yeah.
We were both
done. Yeah, it was our decision.
And so, everybody's like, well, you could still have more. I was just like, well, no, like we're at the point that, this is it. And so, but anyways, so we, are expecting, still doing very well.
Yes.
And so how far along are you?
Well, this past Wednesday I was at 26 weeks, so we have 14 to go.
Yeah. And she's doing acrobatics in there.
She is.
And
it's a she.
Yeah, it's a she. So my life is run by women. I'm surrounded by women at the office. I'll be surrounded by women at home. It's just it's how it is, and I wouldn't change anything. But yeah, so that's where we're at, and that's why I can't look back at 2020 completely awful because something miraculous
absolutely
happened in all of this. But like I said, just with the processing of everything, going through the loss of the second child, closing the business, not knowing how things would rebound after that, losing team members, gaining a whole new team, having having a third pregnancy, all that stuff. I would exercise because that kind of helped keep me sane. But as far as tracking and tracking food and all that stuff, I just was not I did not have the bandwidth for it whatsoever. And it's interesting because Sarah was talking about that Next Right Thing song. I had started off 2020 in January reading a book called It Takes What It Takes, and the author's name escapes me right now, but that's exactly what it is. It's about what's called neutral thinking. Yeah. It's not positive thinking, it's neutral thinking. It's exactly that. It's focusing on the next right step versus, if you need to go for a run. but it's early and it's cold. You don't want to get out of bed. First thing would be to get out of bed. Focus on doing that. Then the next thing would be to drink a glass of water. Okay, I want to focus on drinking a glass of water. Next thing would be to put on some running shoes. Okay, I want to go put on some running shoes. It's just breaking it down into literally the next right thing that you're supposed to do. And it's interesting. They have a saying in the book that positive thinking works some of the times, but negative thinking works all of the time.
True.
And so it's about detaching from a negative mind space and just focusing, detaching yourself and just focusing on neutrality. Is just focusing on the action needed.
And I can tell you, after the miscarriage, I have a few people that I know who have suffered through the same thing that I was able to talk to. But I did go on Facebook and I did try to find a support group, find women who've gone through similar experiences. And many of these women have had more than one. But one thing, I actually needed to leave these groups after so much time. Because I was moving on to the next right thing. I was trying to, get past, not forget, but again, just get past.
Right.
And these women, I was expecting things had happened more recently, but many of them, they're still going through emotional issues years after the fact.
Right.
Many of them, it was just one miscarriage. And still years later, they are still so hung up on this. I don't really know if I need to call it victim mentality, but the pain and the heartache, it's like it happened yesterday for them. And I felt horrible that they were still there. Yeah. They were still in that mindset. And I just wanted to give them a hug and, try to help them move forward and not stay where they were.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of hard knowing that I was moving forward and some of these other women were just stuck.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. And that's really, on the fundamental level, why we wanted to record this episode. It wasn't for a pity party. It wasn't to be Debbie Downers or, share our sob story of 2020, because there are millions of sob stories about last year.
Yeah.
But it was mainly about showing that if you're going through things and you didn't quite achieve what you wanted to in 2020, you're not a failure, okay? Right. And it's okay to struggle. We all go through these struggles. But at the same time, we can't embrace this widespread victim mentality mindset. Like, that is one thing I hated about all this stuff about, calling 2020 names and all that stuff and, all the memes around there, is it just cultivated a mass victim mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really did. And, I mean, we can acknowledge the challenges and just heartbreaking challenges and tragedies that it brought. But at the same time, we can't wallow in that.
Right.
And so, looking back, now moving forward to what lessons I learned from it, and how do we take these experiences that we went through and cultivate it into something good moving forward. And I'm a much wiser person now than I was at the beginning of last year. I've learned so much about myself and how my mind works and how I cope with things. And triggers for stress. And I am a stress eater, and I'm also a stress drinker. And so I need activity to offset that.
Yeah.
If I have idle hands, I will be prone to want to eat.
Yeah.
Or want to drink. So I have to stay active. I really learned this last year that exercise is my antidepressant.
Yeah.
Like, I have to have exercise every day.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm getting back into a 5-day split, and then active rest on the weekends, either yoga. We have a heavy bag coming in, so I'll be
Mhm.
able to get into boxing and stuff. So if I have frustrations, I can take it out on vinyl. But
Mhm.
like, um, that's just something that I had to come to terms
Yeah.
with myself.
Mhm.
Is that I have an addictive personality. Um, I have anxieties and depressions and stuff. I don't want to be on medications. This isn't to poo-poo medication. Some people, work with a qualified health professional
Right.
to work through this stuff. Maybe it's medication, maybe it's therapy, maybe it's diet and exercise, maybe it's a combination of any or all the above.
Right.
But for me, I don't, I want to give myself every opportunity I can to not have to be on medication and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So it's going to be journaling, gratitude journaling.
Mhm.
It's going to be diet. I'm just more clear when I'm ketogenic.
Mhm.
I'm less depressed. I less mental fog.
Mhm.
My joints don't ache.
Yeah.
All that stuff. That kind of, I think it's that anti-inflammatory, and I want to get Dr. Georgia Eads on about that. A psychologist that uses a ketogenic diet, low carb diet with her patients. But like, I learned a lot from myself that even though on the scale I didn't make progress
Yeah.
or the type of progress I wanted to, still the consistency in the gym, I'm stronger,
Mhm.
at least than I've ever been. I've hit PRs that I never thought I would hit. So that's good. So
Mhm.
at least muscularly I've laid a foundation.
Absolutely.
So, but like I said, I've really learned a lot about myself and also prioritizing life. With another one on the way, and I learned I could be closed for 2 months and it really not impact my business because we came back so strong
Mhm.
that we did pretty well,
Yeah.
all things considered.
Mhm.
Um, and so that taught me that, hey, I can take more time off.
Yeah.
I can be with family. I can
Mhm.
take more vacation, and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like we can still make it work and stuff. So, what like personal revelations have you had as far as yourself or for us or
Yeah, well, I did realize very recently that I haven't gone anywhere since January.
hmm
You've had your chances to get out for dental things
right,
and travel, but that was without us.
right,
But so yeah, January I went down to Texas, and before that it was October that I went back to Illinois. So that was the
right,
last time I saw my family was
yeah,
October of 2019. Um, and you know, since we've been together, I've kind of had a wanderlust. It's like I just need to get out of Dodge. I need to go somewhere. I need to go see family. I need to, even if it's just getting to Kansas City for an overnight.
hmm
I always wanted to get out a little bit, and not going anywhere this past year really has. At the beginning was kind of hard,
hmm
but lately I just feel like it's just so much easier. I don't have to plan what to pack. I don't have
hmm
to plan Hazel and what to pack for her. I don't have it's been easy to just stay home.
yeah,
I mean, the farthest we've gone is like Wichita or Kansas City for a day, but we're always back home that
right,
night. We haven't done any overnights because what's the point? The pools aren't open, and
yeah,
so Hazel can't swim, so she'll just feel bad that we're in a hotel without a pool. So it has been nice, really just appreciating home
hmm
and appreciating Yates Center.
hmm
If we need to get something, we really can get most of our needs here.
yeah,
And even if we need to do a Walmart run, it's still only 20 minutes away.
right,
So yeah, very few things that we have to go out of town for.
yeah,
We're going to Chanute for our baby appointments,
right.
and we try to spend some time in Chanute too. But yeah, I've been really enjoying getting to this appreciation for just staying put.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I do very much miss my family and seeing,
Mhm.
all of my nieces and nephews. I have a new nephew who was born in August that I haven't even
Right.
got to meet. I don't know when I'll get to meet him.
Right.
And of course, all of those cousins will have a new one come April and don't know when they'll get to meet her.
Right.
So, So yeah, there is still, the desire to go to Illinois, but it's also, that, well, I don't actually have to go anywhere yet. So,
Yeah.
and especially as far along pregnant as I am, and I tell you, being 35 and pregnant, I don't want to move. I don't want to go
Yeah.
anywhere. Anyway, so, yeah, and with weight issues, I started both my pregnancy in February and this one much further overweight than I did when I got pregnant with Hazel.
Right.
I was about 155, 160 when I got pregnant with Hazel,
Right.
which was a little overweight, but not terrible for my size and body
Right.
shape. But this time around, after the depression of not getting pregnant so long and then having surgery and not really wanting to, start working out immediately after surgery, obviously.
Mm.
Um, and then I had just about started a boot camp when I found out I was pregnant in
Mhm.
February. So
Mhm.
I didn't actually start that. Um, and then the miscarriage and more depression and sitting all day at work.
Right.
I started this pregnancy a good 30 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And I'm already over 200 pounds. And I
Right.
still have another trimester to go.
Right.
But I am very much looking forward to getting back to Keto Gains boot camps.
Mhm.
Once pregnancy is over and get a pretty good handle on breastfeeding with this one afterward. But I'm literally looking forward to starting that up again because I
Yeah.
will be home
Mhm.
and I will have, the gym at my disposal. I'll have a baby who's napping pretty
Mhm.
regularly. And I can take care of my meal planning
Mhm.
without that full-time job in the way for me.
Right.
Because that's how my mind works. I can't I can't meal prep and try to eat the same thing all week. I wish I could. I wish I had that mindset. I mean, I'm pretty simple with my tastes anyway.
Right.
But if I'm forced to eat the same thing all week
Yeah.
and reheat something, I just can't do it. So, I'm grateful that I'll be able to be back home and take care of that
And cook your stuff fresh
and cook my stuff fresh. I mean, I did a really good job with that in 2018 when I wasn't working
right.
and I was able to just focus every day on
Right.
what I needed to do. So,
Yeah, for me, I thrive on robot mode. And so I'm basically eat the same thing every day. Basically just when I looked back on it, when I lost tons of weight, in my teens and stuff, I was eating the same thing every day. I had the same
mhm,
breakfast, I had the same lunch. The only thing that would change with dinner, it would still be low carb.
mhm,
Um, but for breakfast it was 2 pieces of bacon, 2 eggs, half a grapefruit. Then once I kind of went into more Atkins mode, it was a sausage and cheese omelet. That was my breakfast every day. Lunch was either leftovers from dinner, low carb dinner the night before,
mhm,
or it was a salad with a can of tuna. Um, and that was lunch every day. And it's just like, or even when I was keeping the weight off in college,
mhm.
my breakfast in college was um, 2 pieces of turkey bacon and 3 eggs. That was breakfast every day. And so it's just when I go back and look at it, it's just like basically becoming a robot
Mhm.
was how I did things. And that's kind of where I'm getting back to now. For those of you wondering where I'm starting out at, so weigh in this morning for the new year was 292, and my macros, I've set it up to be basically 200 grams of protein, 40 grams of total carbs, and 100 grams of fat. I'm giving myself enough leeway that I kind of work within windows, but basically I'm trying to stay at 1900 calories or below, and while getting enough protein.
Mhm.
That's really what it's about. So I might have 180 grams of protein one day. I might have 220 grams of protein the next. I don't really care as long as I'm getting at least
Mhm.
180 grams of protein and I'm under the calories where I need to be.
Yeah.
So, just on the most fundamental level, that's where it is. It's get your calories right and get enough protein. And then
Mhm.
if you want to eat more carbs and less fat, or if you want to eat more fat, less carbs. It's whatever plays to your preference and what you can be consistent with. And then I'm back onto a 5-day split with weight training. So it's a push day, a pull day, legs, and then a upper body volume day, and then a lower body volume day. And because I like to push pull legs, but that's a very popular like 3-day split that a lot of people do. But unfortunately, if you've been doing this for a while, it's hard to get enough volume and a number of hard sets on just 1 day of push, 1 day of pull, 1 day of legs.
Yeah.
And so by doing push-pull legs, but then having another day for volume, for both upper body and lower body, I just find I'm really enjoying it. It's actually my second week of doing it. I got a jump start on it after Christmas. I'm actually, really enjoying it. It's kind of taking some things I learned through my training through the ISSA, but also that going through the Menno Henselman's training, the old Bayesian bodybuilding training certification that I went through and stuff. So it's kind of programmed my own thing based on some of those principles, and I'll stick to that for the first quarter, giving myself a good 12 weeks to really hone in on the program.
Hey, that's about right when we should be welcoming baby girl.
Yep, absolutely. And then, so, moving forward with you, I mean, obviously we got to finish the growing here.
Yes.
But yeah, then, so the plan is to, after some time, obviously.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about the Ketodontist folks is, like, even, they have enough experience to work around that.
Oh, yeah. They have their Ketodontist baby group, and
Yep, so they can help navigate that, and I'm really excited to hear you wanting to get back into it. Technically, I like the fact that you'll have that accountability when I'm not here,
right?
And I can be husband, not coach.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I need you to be husband, not coach.
But obviously I'll understand what you're doing. Understand what you're going through,
and of course, as whenever I have questions, I'm glad I can defer to you and get those questions answered as well from you, as well as the accountability group that they provide as well.
Right. So really, folks, we wanted to share this personal story because too many on the whole social media want to portray only the highlight reels. They want to make it seem like their life is perfect, and if your life is not perfect, if you are struggling, then something is wrong with you, when clearly that is not the case. Life is hard anyway. Life is a contact sport, and if you don't believe life is a contact sport, if you've ever tripped and fallen on the ice, you will have learned that life is indeed a contact sport, and we need to be strong and physically prepared no matter what age we are. And everybody got knocked on their butts one way or another this last year.
Yeah.
But it's how do we move on from that? How do we grow from that? How do we become stronger and more resilient and take those hard-learned lessons and apply them to become better in this new year?
Absolutely.
So, anything else, wife?
I don't think so, husband.
Alrighty, well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be coming up with some more episodes here soon, lining up some exciting guests from all sorts of walks of life. I've got some people coming on dealing with kind of anthropology and kind of human evolution and all that stuff. Got some kind of more growth mindset, entrepreneur type personalities coming on, and just kind of a wide spectrum. So really excited to bring that on. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a rating. Ratings are awesome. That's how we grow, because again, earmuffs for the kids in the car, but there's so much bullshit out here in the space that it's almost infuriating to me, and it's just like we've got to kind of direct the narrative a little bit and get back to fundamentals and sound principles that are really actually going to get people results, and not just selling the dream, selling the results without sacrifice or effort.
Yeah.
Take this supplement, take, this detox, all this shysterism that is out here in this space. And so that's really what this show is about, is cutting through all that and just getting to the meat and cauliflower of what's really going to drive the needle for you and making improvements. So again, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. You have a great and 2021, great new year, and let's really kick the dust off and make it a good one. So you guys take care. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.